I'm Linda Fox in the Phocuswright studio, and I'm with David Gunnarsson from Dohop and Charles Rajjou from CitizenPlane. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk a little bit about airline distribution and the trends we're seeing. Now, the current state with NDC in particular is very low single-digit numbers still. What do you think, and I'll come to you first, David, what do you think we're going to see in the coming year, and how quickly is there going to be a sort of ramp-up?
So you're going to ask me to predict the future? Yeah. Okay, so I'll definitely be wrong. Let's start there.
Great.
And I mean, obviously it's taken much longer than people expected, and it's probably going to continue to do that.
Okay.
I still feel a slight sort of undercurrent of acceleration.
Right.
The conferences I've been, obviously it's conference season where I've been going, the airlines we speak to, all of these things. I feel like there's a little bit of an acceleration. Mm-hmm. Whether that remains true or not, I don't know. Maybe everybody's interested in it this year, but who knows what happens next year.
Would you say that acceleration is down to anything in particular?
Well, I mean, it's the whole sort of offer order kind of theme, right? NDC kind of underpins that, is part of that.
Yep.
NDC was never an end, it was a means to an end.
Absolutely.
And I think possibly, people are jumping on that offer order bandwagon, and NDC somehow as part of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, Charles, you're more of a newcomer to the space. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think first of all we can recall the figures. The NDC adoption is under 10% or roughly 10%.
It is,
so it's quite limited. If we look at the big players like tier 1, tier 2, it's more like 50% of the big players. But if we look at the long tail, it's really, really low, and even more for tier 3, tier 4, which are the type of airlines that we are targeting. So in terms of adoption, I think it will take time, like everything from paper to paper, ticket paper to e-ticket. It took 12 years.
Sure.
NDC, it will be the same. Offer order, it will be super long. So same, I can't predict the year near, but I think it will be quite long, and it's normal. There is a huge risk actually for airlines, and some business cases are not really clear for some of them.
It's true. Yeah. Do you want to add something,
David?
I think,
I mean, even then, if you count only numbers of like airlines that have adopted, right? It's also just the sort of how little they've adopted of the standard within each airline. So it's not just Boolean, right?
No, we're still talking about seats and bags, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, there's maybe 120 different things in NDC that you can sort of pull in, but most of them have implemented maybe 20 or 30, right?
Yeah.
So it's an even smaller number than it appears to be.
Yes, because it's really quite limited in functionality,
yes.
or certainly in what's been adopted. Now, interlining was always a contentious kind of point, and that's that's what Dohop does. So, so is there now more momentum around the interlining side of NDC? Yeah,
I feel, at least in the airlines that we speak to, there's a little bit more. I think the future there is a little bit less certain. Mm-hmm. We clearly see, I think people understand what the NDC sort of future looks like, and when that's roughly adopted across the ecosystem. But how airlines will do interline and how that will be sort of achieved throughout the industry, not just with the big players and the joint ventures and all of these things.
Of course.
That's a bit out there.
It is the long tail, as you say, Now, let's talk a little bit about offer order, because, is there a danger because of that long tail, because of the limited adoption and around the functionality, that actually we leave a lot of stakeholders behind by the sort of now push towards offer order? I'll start with you, Charles.
I don't know if it's a question of danger. Of course, it will take time. The initiative from IATA started in 2012.
I think so,
With NDC.
Yeah.
Then it was the one order, where the idea is that we get rid of PNR, e-tickets, EMD, etc. And then it was now like the offer order. So, I mean, once again, it's not a risk. It's just a huge boom in our industry. So just question of time, and I think it's normal. And the big players are committed. If we look at what British Airways are signing with Novio, what Flyer is doing with Riyadh Air, for instance, or Saudi or Finnair. So the big players are moving.
No, there is momentum. It would be unfair to say otherwise. But I think, David, you smile there when we talk about removing the PNR, and I feel the same way to a certain extent, because we've been talking about this now for 12 years. And
sounds great.
It does. But what still needs to happen? What are still the challenges?
I think obviously it's sort of changing the tires of a car while driving, right? I mean, there's a
open
lot
heart
of
surgery. It's often compared
exactly.
to.
There's a lot of things that are really uncomfortable about this, and when also possibly when there's when the players don't necessarily fully understand, what the future looks like. It's
Yes.
hard to get there. If you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to what Charles was saying about the business cases aren't
Exactly.
necessarily there.
Yeah.
Why doing it?
Yeah.
Why would it doesn't really make sense yet. But if you then find, as an airline, find yourself in a situation where you're sort of at risk of being left behind, that of course will drive you forward.
Yeah.
If you miss out on opportunities, for sales channels or whatever it is. But that's hard to see in the sort of short to medium term.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you both about AI, because obviously the theme of the conference is AI. Everything we're hearing about is AI. But how much of that is a reality for you in your business?
In our business, it's primarily in customer service, as you would expect initially. So we've got, we run customer service for disrupted passengers. I think about 40% of what comes in ends up with an AI sort of a virtual human.
A backup or support, yeah.
And that AI can deal with about 50% of what it sees. Obviously, that's going to, we want to push that forward, but more and more it's going to come into play in sort of the discovery phase, how you search for travel without, this natural language search and all of these things, and probably in sort of pricing, revenue management. We've talked about, obviously, you mentioned Flyer and other players. I mean, I think there's applications everywhere. They're not always immediate opportunities. But certainly, as we go along and as AI gets more powerful, I think it has to be something that is going to be a huge factor in our lives.
Yeah. Charles, what sort of use cases are you seeing in your business?
I think we agree, and we have exactly the same usage of AI so far. We use it also with our developers. They use it as a sparring partner in a way to also use this help actually to code, and for the customer service it's a huge help. I don't know if you noticed, but OpenAI will release beginning of January a new agent machine in a way in order to take control and also act in a way, taking decision and no longer just creating an image or answering via chat. So it's something which can be really interesting also for the customer support, because we can imagine that they will take decision based on some rules, but it can take decision for us. So it's also really exciting to see what will happen.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the agent side of things. I think Google has deferred theirs for a bit later, but you say,
and also the voice, actually, we can imagine that a customer can also call CitizenPlane or Dohop or whatever and speak to a AI agent, because we saw what OpenAI recently did. We can really have a conversation with the machine. So for a really basic use case, it's better than a FAQ. It's really, really, really exciting.
Some of the things we get excited about is the potential going forward, and a lot of people are beginning to talk about disintermediation again, and how far AI agents specifically might do that. What if the AI agent goes and interacts with the airline directly, gets the ticket, the fare, the itinerary, brings it back to the customer, and that's it. No more GDS, no more, what's your view on that? Is that even is that sort of pie in the sky, or?
That's probably that's maybe not next Tuesday, but certainly in the cards. I think there will always, like we have today, there will always be multiple channels, multiple kind of touch points, etc. And it's going to take a couple of generations of people who grew up with AI to be comfortable and
a bit like digital natives.
Kind of, and people who grew up with around Facebook or just around the internet. I think you have to kind of it always takes a generation at least in order to clear that out. And then I was speaking about this at a conference a couple of months ago. It says as an airline or a travel seller, you have to support all of the, you can't just say, I'm only going to sell to Gen Z. Because that's not an option, right? I mean, you have to be open to everyone, right? Yeah,
but that does actually bring in quite a lot of increased cost, doesn't it, Charles? Because I understand that the processing side of AI does involve quite a lot of cost.
You mean the cost of AI?
Yeah.
Actually? Yes, it's a lot of computing, etc. So yes, it will increase the cost, but once again, maybe you will increase the cost in one hand and reduce on the other hand.
Right, if it drives efficiency,
what is important is that as we are operating a big shift into the industry, I think we need to take in consideration this big move actually, and that when we implement offer order, we need to think about, for instance, AI, also this new generation which is coming, like the user of TikTok, Instagram, etc. So to be sure that the way we want to sell retail air content fit with the move that we can see. Just as a reminder, ChatGPT have been released in November 2022.
Yes,
Look
we're in
where
2
we
years
are now.
birthday.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's really, it went so fast.
Yeah.
So I mean, the move of the technology, it's what we said before. It will take like 10 years, 20
Yeah.
years. Okay, but
Yeah.
look how the rest of our environment is moving so fast. So it's something that we really need to take in consideration, I think.
So what then do you think might be the use cases in 2025? How might we move in terms of airline distribution? Might we move beyond customer service?
Yeah, recommendation, for instance.
Yes, I mean that is already happening for some companies.
Recommendation
towards
makes a
activities.
lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if we are ready to really write a text or to speak with the machine and to ask, okay, I want to go to Cambodia or whatever. What do you suggest? I don't know, but maybe for something really specific. At the beginning, it's something that we can consider. I'm used to say, yes, maybe tomorrow we could stop to fill this form with origin, destination, date,
Yes.
and numbers of passenger, and just say, okay,
Yeah.
I want to go to New York with my family, and the
Yeah.
machine knows who is your family because the machine understands who you are. So it's something that we can imagine for 2025, and then if we start to be used to this, we can go beyond.
And also maybe the filtering side, right, David? Because we do give consumers so much information, so much they have to sift through to just get
absolutely.
anything like near a booking. So
that's the thing, and I think that's where you're starting to see. I mean, even here there are some startups that are doing sort of intelligent selection of what ancillary to show a customer. What am I most likely to buy when I'm in path or post booking, whatever. I think. But it's really all about the quality of the underlying data, right? If you're going to ask a question that says, I want to take my kids to Sunshine within a 5-hour flight for under $1,000.
Yeah.
Like the data that is required to fulfill that request and the accuracy that you need and all of these things. I mean, that's pretty significant.
Yeah,
right?
it's a lot. Yeah.
It is. And a human travel agent can probably off the top of their head rattle off 10 options for exactly what I just said. While AI might struggle right now, but in a year, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Generally around AI, are you optimistic about the future, or do you, are you kind of...
I'm always optimistic about everything,
Okay,
so I have no choice.
Okay, and what about NDC and offer order?
Also that,
Yeah.
which is strange, I will admit that. But I mean, while sort of I wouldn't say I have a stake in that in any way, I just think there must be a future where we get out of the confines, the constraints
Yes.
of the legacy tech stack within air, right?
Yes.
There has to be somehow.
Yes. We seem to struggle, but yeah, we talk about it a lot at these conferences. So just as we finish up here, how might we, Charles, avoid the mistakes of the past as we move from NDC to offer and order?
How to avoid the mistake of the
how
past?
do we not spend a lot of time disputing what the standard means, producing different flavors of what is supposed to be a standard and it isn't a standard, arguing over the commercials because that is very, very often what it comes down to. How do we avoid those mistakes?
It's a good question. I'm always for cooperation and collaboration.
Sure.
And I think this is how we can avoid instead of doing all the thing on our own side.
Yes.
Let's try to collaborate, because once again it's a big move actually which have been initiated, and I think that if we have like open conversation and we just share how we see the future and how we are thinking about the implementation of what we're doing, I think it's important. We are in an industry where everything is connected and we are partners, so we also, like in this implementation of the technology, we need to talk to each other and to share what we discover.
Yeah. Anything else we should be doing, do you think, David?
Well, I mean, you learn how to make good decisions by making a lot of bad ones, right?
Yes.
So that's experience.
Yes.
I think probably the biggest thing, the hurdles are around, when you try to explain new things to people, they
Yes.
will try to fit it into their current view of the world.
Sure.
And this probably doesn't fit, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years trying to explain that there's another way to interline for people. And they're like, but wait a minute, how does this, will I become obsolete? What's going to, all of the things.
Yes.
It's the fear. Sort of disregard all of that and just say, okay, what if we had clean slate? What would we do? Would we do what we're trying to do now or would we do it entirely differently and faster and better and blah, blah, blah?
I mean, a couple of airlines do have a clean slate.
Yes.
Some of the Saudi airlines, they have a clean slate.
Absolutely.
But would you say they're going to be forced down the sort of more traditional paths? I think it's Riyadh Air has come to do certainly an agreement with Sabre. I'm not sure about Amadeus yet.
With Sabre and with Flyer.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
both,
Yeah. So
I think the risk is always that you can start clean slate, but then what about all of the sales channels that are still in the old ecosystem, right?
Yes.
You have to. That's my point from earlier.
Yeah.
You have to make it. You have to put the things that you are selling in front of the right eyeballs at the right time, and the only way to do that is to do both.
yeah.
But that is hard and expensive.
Yes.
And all
exactly.
of the things, right?
Exactly. All right, David, Charles, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.